Spoiler alert!
Welcome to Spoiler Alert. I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about the 2026 Oscars. I went to go see this in downtown Toledo as a part of Film Toledo's Oscar watching party. It was a good time had by all. Please go support Film Toledo. I'll have a link in the description below. And before we begin, the night belonged to two movies, Sinners and One Battle After Another. Both films that are extremely woke. Take the hint, Paramount. This Oscar ceremony was pretty good. So let's go ahead and start off with some of the things that happened. The big opening bit was Conan is dressed up as Aunt Gladys, makeup and all. And then you hear a sabotage needle drop as the kids from Weapons are chasing him throughout all the Best Picture nominations. Like, he's appearing in Sinners singing Danny Boy, or he pops up in K-pop Demon Hunters, despite the fact K-pop Demon Hunters isn't nominated for Best Picture. He's popping up in Sentimental Value. It's a very old school, like, Billy Crystal style opening number where he inserts himself into the major movies of the year. And I kind of dug that. It was a nice little tip of the hat to Billy Crystal, which we'll get to later. And then Conan, with all the boundless energy of a teenager, runs in with the kids to the auditorium podium. And then he starts his monologue. And there are moments in this monologue where he's really funny, and there are moments that just land with a thud. Specifically, when he was trying to create a Leonardo DiCaprio meme, you could just hear a pin drop when he was trying that bit out. It just did not work at all.
That feeling when you didn't agree to this.
But what I like about Conan O'Brien is his genuine sincerity and love for movies. He took the time to thank all the nominees around the world, and then he goes into this bit where he wants to give himself an Oscar, and it's called Best Achievement, and he's practically crowned king, and Josh Groban is singing this song out of nowhere. And I'm just gonna say it, I actually low-key wanted him to be nominated for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, because he is genuinely great in that movie. I'd like to see him try more dramatic work. I mean, he's not far off from getting an Oscar. He just needs to find that right role. And then the first award is given. Zoe Saldana then comes out and gives the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And this was a really tough competition, and whoo boy, there's a bit that doesn't age well in my favorite films video. Because in the favorite films video, I straight up fucking said that Amy Madigan wouldn't get nominated, though I loved the performance so much. I hoped for that Oscar nomination. And not only does she get that Oscar nomination, she becomes the biggest dark horse ever. She ends up winning Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars, and you had no idea how much I jumped for fucking joy when that happened. Like, my god, that was such a wonderful win. It's such a great character. It's such a compelling character, too. And not since Kathy Bates in Misery did I love a villain so much, where I was compelled by her story, where I wanted to know more about her. And she ended up winning Weapons Lone Oscar without a narrative, without anything of the sort. She just a pure, genuinely great performance. Because at the time when I wrote the favorite films video, all eyes were on Teyana Taylor winning for supporting actress for One Battle After Another. While that is a great role and a great supporting role, I just didn't think it was quite up to snuff. She's really only in the first 20 minutes of the film and the last 2 minutes of the voiceover. Because personally, I felt One Battle After Another was more about Willow than it was Perfidia Beverly Hills. But the fact that Amy Madigan won is such an epic all-timer win. I am so beyond proud of her. It's a well-deserved win. And I am kicking myself for even saying that. Hell, I'm seriously considering editing that segment out. But I don't because I want to keep things for posterity. And then Conan O'Brien pivots to the Oscars going to YouTube in 2029, in which he keeps getting interrupted by Jane Lynch plugging in an extreme flashlight. And it's a really funny bit. I really did enjoy that bit. While I was mixed on his monologue, like, the bits as they progressed were extremely funny and some of the best the Oscars have ever had. And then we're presented with Will Arnett and Channing Tatum with Best Animated Feature. And the thing is, like, they bring up the fact that they were both in the Lego movie. And the thing is, these two have no chemistry on stage. They weren't playing off of each other well, despite the fact they were in the Lego movie. And it just didn't work. None of the comedy, none of the banter between them landed. And of course, K-pop Demon Hunters wins. That was my will/should win, and it was well deserved. And I'm just going to say it. I can't wait to pick up the Criterion release. And I like the string arrangement of Golden that they walked up to. That was pretty cool. And I like that Maggie Kang, I believe her name is, came out and said, "This is for Korea and Koreans everywhere." So in other words, she's saying, "Suck it, Criterion snobs." And then one of the other guys is like, "I'd like to thank our partners at Netflix." And they would have just fucking left it buried if it weren't for K-pop stans. And then it cuts to Best Animated Short. And one thing I loved, one of the big lines from the night for me, was Will Arnett saying, "Tonight we are celebrating people, not AI." That is such a great line, and I'm glad they accentuated that. And I'm glad that there was actual talk about a love for animated films, whereas every time I see, like, the animated feature or animated short segments, it's usually, like, the animations for kids bullshit, and granted, they did kinda get away from that, but it just got to a point where it's like, we get it. You don't like animation, you don't treat it seriously as a medium. And then I think Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio changed that and shut them the fuck up. And then they end up presenting Best Animated Short. And it's The Girl Who Cried Pearls that wins the animated short. And then we get to the I Lied to You performance. And it starts off with Raphael Sadiq and Miles Caton. And I'm just going to say it, Miles Caton should have been nominated for supporting actor. It's one of my favorite performances of 2025. And then you're seeing them practically recreate the winner by bringing up other celebrities, such as Shabuzi and Brittany Howard of the Alabama Shakes. And then, in a coup de grace, you have Misty Copeland coming out of retirement to tell Timothée Chalamet to fuck off on that stage. But as much as I really dug that performance, I would have loved to have seen Buddy Guy up there. Like, Buddy Guy is crucial to that film, as he's the older version of Sam. And that just would have been a nice capper to that. That's my only criticism about that otherwise really cool performance. And then we cut to the Marty Supreme highlight reel. And then we cut to Conan making a joke about the Timothée Chalamet bum drum, which, if you've seen the movie Marty Supreme, Kevin O'Leary slaps Marty's ass with his paddle. And then Conan O'Brien cuts to another really funny bit where it's called Ventura Crossroads, where it's classic films cut through cell phones, where you're like seeing just really the midsection of a movie. I kind of like that. I got a real kick out of that. And then you have Anne Hathaway and Anna Wintour coming up, to who is the inspiration for the double Meryl Streep's character in The Devil Wears Prada. And they're presenting costume and hair and makeup. And let's be real, this is a cynical Devil Wears Prada 2 tie-in because Meryl Streep did not want to be there. I mean, she's not nominated for anything yet. She probably will be next year, so she'll be there then. Then you have your nominees for costume: Avatar Fire and Ash, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, and Sinners. And I'm just going to put together hair and makeup with this as well. The nominations were Frankenstein, Kokuo, Sinners, The Smashing Machine, and Ugly Stepsister. Frankenstein wins both. Those were both will/should wins for me. Frankenstein deserved every technical it got because it's Guillermo del Toro. The makeup in that looked absolutely fantastic. I love the costuming of both of those films. But I will say something. I think The Ugly Stepsister was a genuinely great nomination. If Frankenstein weren't in competition, that would have been my should win. I really dug the hell out of the makeup effects in The Ugly Stepsister. And to see a Shudder movie, of all things, get nominated, that's actually pretty cool. The big winner of the night was horror. Think about it. You have Amy Madigan winning Weapons Lone Oscar nomination. You have Sinners practically dominating in major categories. You have Frankenstein dominating in the technicals. It seems as if the Academy listened and said, you know what? I think we need to start taking horror seriously. And that's kind of a good thing. And then we cut to the Hamnet montage. And Paul Mescal, Gwyneth Paltrow, Delroy Lindo, Chase Infinity, and Wagner Moura present casting. And it's a representative from each nominated movie to hype up each casting director. And I'm just going to say this. I've always hated this format. It just stops the award show dead, and it's so smug and self-congratulatory. It never feels genuine with this type of presentation, where you have 5 actors slobbing the knob of somebody involved with the film. It just never worked for me, and they just really gotta stop doing that format. So who is the inaugural Best Casting winner? The winner is One Battle After Another. My will win was Sinners, my should win was The Secret Agent. Sinners, I thought, had casting locked because of the SAG Awards and all that. Not just that, I thought that was a genuinely great cast. But why I wanted The Secret Agent to win was everyone in that film felt like a real person. You felt like you were in Brazil in the 70s during this authoritarian regime. Even with Wagner Moura, who's pretty much eyeing to become the next Pedro Pascal. I mean, look at him. He's gunning for the Pedro Pascal throne. He still looks like a regular, everyday human being. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to get Pedro Pascal for this movie, and so with Wagner Moura. But Wagner Moura in that film works. And I love the casting choices of the film, where you see people that aren't conventionally attractive, and they're putting on genuinely great performances. And that's why I was rooting for The Secret Agent. But I didn't expect One Battle After Another. It's a solid win, but all 5 of those choices in the inaugural entry were great. And if you were to ask me in January what my will should win would have been, it would have been Marty Supreme. No questions about it. But I'm glad that One Battle After Another won. All 5 were great choices. And then we get to the sentimental value montage, and it cuts to Conan blowing leaves off of a stage. And we introduce What We Do in the Shadows as Matt Berry as the announcer. And I thought he did a really good job. I did like his voice. He has a very resonant voice to announce the Oscars. And then we're introduced to Kumail Nanjiani, who Conan O'Brien introduces as being both in the MCU and someone who is obsessed with Marvel. And Kumail Nanjiani ends up presenting Best Live Action Short Film. The nominees are Butcher Stain, A Friend of Dorothy, Jane Austen's period drama, Two People Exchanging Saliva. And it ends up being a tie. And it's The Singers and Two People Exchanging Saliva. And the should win was Two People Exchanging Saliva. I just wasn't a big fan of the short films, so I just picked the most pretentious ones. My will win was Jane Austen's period drama, because it's usually the more pretentious ones that win the live action short film. So technically, I did get one correct because it was a tie. And needless to say, congratulations to both movies. You guys made Oscar history. And the last time Oscars tied was sound editing for Zero Dark 30 and Skyfall in 2013. That's a huge honor. And then Conan O'Brien makes a really good joke about this, in which he says, congratulations to both of you. You just ruined 22 million Oscar pools. That was a pretty funny joke. I like that. And then Kieran Culkin comes out and he presents Best Supporting Actor. The nominees are Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Delroy Lindo, Jacob Elordi, and Stellan Skarsgård. And Sean Penn wins, and he's not there. Delroy Lindo for Sinners was my will/should win. At least he was there. At least he was present. But I will say this about Sean Penn in One Battle After Another. I am not the biggest fan of Sean Penn. But I will contest that Sean Penn has one great performance a decade. The 80s, it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The 90s, it was The Game. The 2000s, it was Mystic River. The 2010s, it was The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And it's only fitting that he won his Oscar for his best performance in the 2020s, One Battle After Another. So that's really good he won. And then we get to the Begonia montage for Best Picture. And it cuts to Conan talking about Netflix writing for this bit. And then he does this really brilliant Casablanca bit with Conan and Sterling K. Brown, with Conan playing the Humphrey Bogart role and Sterling K. Brown playing Sam, doing the Netflix version of Casablanca where it's nothing but exposition dumps. And this right here was the best bit of the night. I laughed my ass off. It's so funny. It's so tasteful. And it's just something that felt like it would have been a part of the Billy Crystal era of hosting the Oscars. I just genuinely enjoy this. This is why I like Conan O'Brien as a host. He doesn't have like that Gen X apathy towards things. Like, Conan O'Brien is a sincere guy. You can tell Conan O'Brien at least tried to watch these movies. You can tell Conan O'Brien reads up on movie news and makes the jokes accordingly. I do love him as a host, and I hope he keeps continuing, because I love seeing Conan O'Brien as host. That was the best decision the Oscars made in recent memory. And then we get to Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. presenting Adapted Screenplay and Best Original Screenplay. For Adapted Screenplay, it was Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, and Train Dreams. And One Battle After Another wins. Well-deserved win. I felt that was a genuinely well-written script. That was Paul Thomas Anderson's award. Nobody was going to take that from him. And I like that Paul Thomas Anderson specifically thanks his kids and confirms that he wrote this basically about how he wants the younger generation to become the generation that didn't happen. It was a wonderful tribute, a sincere tribute to his children. It was just a genuinely great speech. And then Chris Evans talks about Dog Day Afternoon, goes on a little spiel, and then RDJ interrupts him with a mirrored Channing Tatum song. And then they present Best Original Screenplay. The nominees were Blue Moon, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. And Sinners wins Original Screenplay. That was one of the moments where the house got brought down. Sinners was a will/should win for me. It was a genuinely great win. I love Ryan Coogler's speech. You can see the genuine sincerity in his voice. It's like he can't believe he's up there right now. Like, you can hear, like, the nerves in his voice. That's how well you know that's a really good speech. And how he's thankful to even be up there. And then we get to Billy Crystal, who introduces the In Memoriam segment with a Rob Reiner tribute. Who better to talk about Rob Reiner's epic run than Billy Crystal, the king of the Oscars? This for me was the most powerful moment of the night. To have the king of the Oscars come out and deliver this heartfelt, sincere tribute to Rob and Michelle Reiner. And you can just hear the pain in his voice when he's talking about this. He makes it a point to talk about how each and every single one of these movies he made, this empirical run this man had, and how much of a profound impact he made on film. And it also, in a way, felt like a nice passing of the torch to Conan. Like, for him to be on that same stage as Conan O'Brien. And it's this genuinely sincere moment. And then he brings the house down by bringing out cast members from Reiner's past films. And then it segs into the In Memoriam segment proper, in which they touch on the right people. They actually did do a good job highlighting the people who deserve to be highlighted. And then Rachel McAdams comes out next, and she delivers this touching tribute to both Catherine O'Hara and Diane Keaton. But the focus was more or less on Diane Keaton. And again, she's making this about the subjects, not her. And there's only one real instance where she talks about herself, and she talks about how Diane Keaton sang the song, "Make new friends, but keep the old one as silver, the older gold." Like, again, you can just hear the pain in her voice as she's talking about Diane Keaton, as well as Catherine O'Hara in the brief time she touched on her as well. Those felt like genuinely sincere tributes. And my God, this was turning out to be one of the best moments of the night. This genuinely sincere, genuinely heartfelt In Memoriam segment, where a couple years ago, we had like dancers coming out, distracting from the people who are being celebrated, which actively pissed me off as an Oscar viewer. And then we get to her. Barbra motherfucking Streisand. Barbra Streisand comes out to pay tribute to Robert Redford. And it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Barbra Streisand would come out to pay tribute to him. I was with this In Memoriam segment, and then Barbra Streisand happened. Jesus Christ, if you know anything about me, I despise Barbra Streisand. And I tried to put aside my hate for Barbra Streisand for this. I listened to her with intent. I listened to what she had to say about Robert Redford. But of course, she has to make this about herself. Yeah, she'll bring up Robert Redford occasionally, but 90% it was all about her. And all about how awesome it was to be Barbra Streisand in a movie with Robert Redford. I didn't hear the genuine sincerity that came out of Rachel McAdams or Billy Crystal. I just heard someone who wanted to brag. I just heard more I, not we. If I keep hearing I from you and not we, it's not a good tribute, it's not a good speech, and it's just smug and self-congratulatory. Barbra Streisand, stop making everything about yourself challenge. And then she cuts into this really half-hearted performance, like 45-second performance of The Way We Were. And her voice is fucking shot. She sounds terrible. The fact that she was allowed to do that, to close out that in memoriam segment, the way she did, and to end it on just such a horrible performance of The Way We Were, just didn't feel right. I mean, you couldn't bring out somebody like, say, Olivia Dean or Adele or someone like that, or hell, two-time Oscar winner Billie Eilish. Needless to say, I really loved that in memoriam segment until Barbra Streisand showed up. And then we get to the Frankenstein montage for Best Picture. Conan does a bit where he's talking with video game footage next to him, which is apparently a big thing on YouTube. And even then, Conan demonstrating that bit just reminds me, oh god, the apocalypse is nigh. This is what little kids are into. Where it's like somebody is talking, and then there's like some random mobile game footage playing on the side. And it just was like, ugh, we're doomed. Humanity is doomed. Take the tablets away from children. And then we get to Sigourney Weaver and Pedro Pascal presenting production design and VFX. And I'm just going to go over both of these in one go. The nominees for production design were Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, and Sinners. Frankenstein wins production design. That was another will/should win for me, because that was a gorgeous film to look at. On a technical level, it's safe to say Frankenstein was my favorite film of 2025 on a technical level. Because Guillermo del Toro was at 100 on a technical level in that film. That was a breathtaking film to look at. And then they present VFX. The nominees are Avatar Fire and Ash, F1, Jurassic World Rebirth, The Lost Bus, and Sinners. And Avatar Fire and Ash wins because Disney cheaped out on a Best Picture nomination. And then it cuts to, like, this really cheap-looking promo for The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's like Disney has no faith in this movie at all. Because if Disney had faith in this, The Devil Wears Prada 2 would not be the May 1st release. It would be The Mandalorian and Grogu. And then we get to the Train Dream montage, and Jimmy Kimmel comes out and presents documentary film. And the crowd cheers when he says documentary. And then he makes a little joke saying, I'm not at liberty to say which countries have free speech. Let's leave it at don't have free speech. Let's leave it at North Korea and CBS. And the documentary short that won was All the Empty Rooms, which sounded like a really interesting movie. It's one of those that I really wanted to check out. I didn't check out any of the documentary shorts. And then Kimmel presents documentary feature. And Mr. Nobody Against Putin wins. Always pick the current event in your Oscar pool is set, especially if Putin's involved. That was my will win. And then it cuts to a commercial of Starbucks using All Together Now by the Beatles, and man, go figure, it turns out Michael Jackson did do a good job with the Beatles catalog. And then we have the F1 montage, which is followed up by the Bridesmaids cast coming out for their 15th anniversary to present Best Score. And that's kind of a weird pairing, like having the Bridesmaids cast come out to present Best Score. Because I don't remember Bridesmaids being a very score-heavy movie. The actors from each score got a note, and that bit just felt kind of mixed. Like, even the writers felt that bit was a little mixed. because one of them said, okay, this is going on a little too long. But the one joke that did land was like, I'm tired and I really want some pizza. And it's from the kid from Hamnet. That was genuinely funny. And it turned out those notes were from the actors that were involved in each movie that's nominated for score. So the nominees for Best Score are Frankenstein, One Battle After Another, Begonia, Hamnet, and Sinners. And this was another clean sweep win. Sinners takes home score. Sinners, again, was my will/should win. Ludwig Göransson is the new John Williams. Of course, he deserved his third Oscar. He's probably going to get another one next year for The Odyssey, which will make him a back-to-back if he does. He's a genius composer. I love what he does. He's just fascinating to listen to when it comes to anything musical related. Pull up any interview with Ludwig Göransson that involves music, or any podcast he comes on that involves music, and just sit down and listen to it. The man has a genuinely fascinating take on music, and I just love sitting down and listening to him talk. And I liked how he talked about how his dad gave him a guitar at 7, and how it led him to Ryan Coogler, and how it led to him winning 3 Oscars, 2 of which under Coogler. And that's just such a wonderful thing. I love the power of music, man, especially when you bring it out in a film. And then Bridesmaids cast presents Sound Achievement as well. The nominees are F1, Frankenstein, One Battle After Another, Sinners, and Seurat. F1 wins Best Sound. That was my will win. My should win was Seurat. And then you get to the Secret Agent montage, and then you have Bill and Lewis Pullman presenting film editing. I think I may have heard this wrong, but I believe they came out to the Spaceballs theme. And if that's the case, that's actually pretty fucking cool. And the nominees for film editing are F1, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. This was another no surprise here. One Battle After Another wins for editing. One Battle After Another was my will win, but Marty Supreme was my should win. If it wasn't Marty Supreme, I'm glad it was One Battle After Another. Both are genuinely well made and well edited films. And most importantly, both of those films are 2.5 hours long plus and don't feel it. And that's one of the more important aspects when you're doing editing. Like, a film has to have a good flow to it, and both of those films have good flows to them, despite having 2.5 hour plus runtimes for both of them. And then Demi Moore comes out and presents cinematography. The nominees are Frankenstein, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sinners, and Train Dreams. Sinners wins cinematography, and it's the first female cinematographer to ever win. Congratulations, that was wonderful. And I wasn't expecting that to win cinematography, because One Battle After Another was my will win, but Train Dreams was my should win. But all 5 choices were genuinely great. Any one of those could have won and I'd be happy. And I loved how humble I'm gonna butcher this last name, Apicow's speech was. She's just happy to be there. She's just happy to hold an Oscar. And I just think it's super cool that she won. I can't believe I counted that out. Because, like I said, all 5 of those choices are great. And that was anyone's game for me. But I was more or less pulling for Train Dreams, because that movie I just want to live in. It's a gorgeous, breathtaking looking movie. And I really hope Criterion picks that up for 4K, because if they do, that's day one purchase. I want that movie in glorious 4K. Like, Train Dreams is one of those movies where you can take any shot from that film and put it on your wall. And I feel Sinners is that same way too, and at times one battle after another. And then we get to, let's be real here, let's just call them Huntrix. Huntrix performing Golden. And this is a really cool presentation. I love how it ties into the Korean aspect. as you have Korean folk musicians coming out. You have narration from the film playing while this is going on. And then you have Huntrix coming out and performing Golden. And it's a very truncated version of it. And I'm just going to say it. Congratulations to Golden winning the Oscar after that performance. But I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I really wish that they would spotlight all the original song nominees, not just the popular ones. I would like to hear Kesha sing Diane Warren's smug self-congratulatory "Please Give Me an Oscar" song. I would have loved to have heard that aria. I would have loved to have heard Nick Cave perform the title song from Train Dreams. Those could have been cool numbers. Don't just focus on the popular ones. Either play all 5 of them or not at all. That's the way I see things. And then we get the one battle after another montage. Priyanka Chopra Jonas comes and Javier Bardem present international film, because Javier Bardem's the go-to guy to present international film. And straight out of the gate, he says no more war and free Palestine. Thank you, Javier Bardem, for having balls tonight. And of course, this was open and shut. Sentimental Value wins international feature. My will win was Sentimental Value. My should win was It Was Just an Accident. But I legit get why It Was Just an Accident didn't win. Because, well, current events. But it sucks because that is such a genuinely great movie. As much as I liked Sentimental Value, I thought it was fine. It wasn't Best International Feature. Because, let's be real, it was the movie with the most star power in it. You have Stellan Skarsgård and an American in Elle Fanning in it. Of course it's going to win International Feature. I feel International Feature should go to more or less the films with relative unknown actors in them. Like, yeah, Wagner Moura was in Civil War, but I do buy him in The Secret Agent. He's not Stellan Skarsgård or Elle Fanning. He's not a B or A-lister. Look, he's that one actor on the rise. And then Lionel Richie comes out and presents original song. No need to talk about the other songs. Golden wins. No big surprise. The other clean sweep of the night. Golden, needless to say, was my will/should win. And then EJ speaks and gives her thank you speech. And EJ herself said that K-pop is very manufactured in how you deliver speeches and how you do interviews, but it never comes off that way with her. Like, you can tell that this is a woman who genuinely loves making music. And I was really proud of her for being up on that stage. Again, I still highly recommend Daniel Wall's podcast episode with her, because I loved hearing those raw demos in which a couple of them actually sound better than the final product. And then another guy speaks, and then they play the shut up music on him. And it's just like, fuck you. Let the guy speak. And then you have Zendaya and Robert Pattinson presenting Best Director because they got the movie, The Drama, coming out. It seems like it's going to be a big deal. That's probably going to be a spoiler alert episode. I haven't decided yet. And then the nominees are Chloe Zhao, Josh Sapti, Paul Thomas Anderson, Joachim Trier, and Ryan Coogler. And Paul Thomas Anderson wins Best Director. No surprise. He was my will win. However, Ryan Coogler was my should win. But at the same time, Paul Thomas Anderson and Ryan Coogler was practically a tie for me. Like in the live action shorts category, but for should win. I gave the slight edge to Coogler. It was one of those gun to head situations, because Paul Thomas Anderson was my will/should win, but then I watched Sinners again and I was like, man, Ryan Coogler really should win Best Director. And it was looking like it for a time that Ryan Coogler would take Best Director. And even then, that was a really stacked lineup. And then you have Adrian Brody presenting Best Actor. And credit where credit is due, he does have a good sense of humor about himself. And the nominees for Best Actor are Ethan Hawke, Leonardo DiCaprio, Wagner Moura, Michael B. Jordan, and Timothée Chalamet. And Michael B. Jordan wins. And my God, you could just feel the electricity in the room. Just pure standing ovation, pure joy, pure sincere, epic, wonderful joy. And needless to say, Michael B. Jordan was my will/should win. And I'm just going to say this bluntly. If Timothée Chalamet wasn't banging a Kardashian, nor was Kevin O'Leary coming out as hardcore MAGA during Marty Supreme's Oscar campaign, Timothée Chalamet would have been up there. Michael B. Jordan was always my will/should win because that I felt was the harder role. Because Marty Mauser, while that is Timothée Chalamet's best role, like anybody can be a douchebag. Whereas Sinners, not only do you have to play dual roles, but you have to have different personas to those two roles. Those are two different characters with two different personalities, with two different views on life. That, I feel, is more challenging than playing some asshole who's super good at ping pong. And I'm just going to say it. You should have been nominated numerous times over. He should have been nominated for Fruitvale Station. He should have been nominated for Killmonger in Black Panther. And he should have been nominated for Creed. And Jesus, just listening to that applause pop. I cannot stress enough how awesome that applause pop was. And it's a genuinely great speech. And it's genuinely sincere as well. I like that he thanked his parents. He thanked Ryan Coogler. He thanked everybody he possibly could. And not only did he get nominated for the first time, he won his first time. That's incredible to me. And then Mikey Madison comes out and presents Best Actress. No need to list them off, but these are still 5 solid nominations. I'll list them off anyway. Jessie Buckley, Rose Byrne, Kate Hudson, Renata Ransba, Emma Stone, and Jessie Buckley wins. Open and shut. That was the other. She's got this. There's no competition. She was my will/should win. She gave the absolute best performance of the 5 nominees. But my extremely close second was Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. I was kind of rooting for her. And I like that Jessie Buckley dedicated her award to mothers. And then Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman present Best Picture. And when you see Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman side by side, it's like, Jesus Christ, Ewan McGregor's a short guy. And they're basically recreating Elephant Love Song from Moulin Rouge because it's the 25th anniversary of that film. And the nominees are Begonia, F1, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. And One Battle After Another takes Best Picture. And I'm just going to say it. I initially had One Battle After Another as a will/should win. But after the Golden Globes, Sinners was my will/should win after the fact. Because when I originally wrote the Best Picture nominees, One Battle After Another was going to be my number 1. But when I saw how the Golden Globes screwed them over, I decided to switch to Sinners. Because I wanted Sinners to win Best Picture so bad. Because I love both One Battle After Another or Sinners. I even said it in my Best Picture ranking video. If you hate One Battle After Another because it's not Sinners, go fuck yourself. These are both genuinely great, both genuinely deserving films that deserve to be nominated for Best Picture. And with One Battle After Another win, something tells me that's going to end up being the new Crash when it shouldn't be the new Crash. One Battle After Another is a genuinely good movie. And that's why I named it. If you follow me on my Letterboxd, I have a list called the La La Land Award for Most Pretentious Award Season Takes, where it's like you see the worst possible takes of movies people came in their pants when they first came out for, and then all of a sudden they're throwing it under the bus. I decided that this year's winner was going to be One Battle After Another because I was starting to see those pretentious takes come out, and it just wasn't jiving with me. And I wanted either of those to win. It was Best Picture. It was practically a tie between Sarah's and One Battle After Another for me. But one had to take the gold and one had to take the silver. And once One Battle After Another was rewarded, Paul Thomas Anderson talks about another iconic year in film, which was 1975, where he lists off the Best Picture nominees of that year. And that year was stacked. So was 1976. 1975 and 1976 are both all-timer Best Picture nomination years. And he talks about how movies can make an impact. And people were taking that as an insult to sinners, and it's just like, no. No, that's fucking stupid. Don't take that as an insult to sinners. And the show ends, and it closes with a pretty funny One Battle After Another parody. I will say this about the Oscars. I was starting to get a little worried at the beginning. Like, it was starting to feel a little wonky with the monologue. But as the show went along, I was happy with it. There wasn't any single winner that I disagreed with at all. All the winners were well chosen. There wasn't like an Amelia Perez win for the night, style win for the night that wasn't deserved. I genuinely had a blast watching this. I genuinely had a blast watching it with like-minded people from Film Toledo. I genuinely enjoyed being in the company of other people. And now with that being said, I'm getting super fucking tired. I had a long day. I gotta edit this podcast. Be sure to like, comment, share, spread the word of New Realms Media. Follow me on all my socials at New Realms Media. And until then...